Our reading is from the Gospel of John, chapter 15, verses 9 to 17, reading from the Good News Bible. I love you just as the Father loves me. Remain in my love. If you obey my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have obeyed my Father's commands and remain in his love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. My commandment is this: love one another just as I love you. The greatest love a person can have for his friends is to give his life for them. And you are my friends if you do what I command you. I do not call you servants any longer, because servants do not know what their master is doing. Instead, I call you friends, because I have told you everything I have heard from my Father. You did not choose me, I chose you, and appointed you to go and bear much fruit, the kind of fruit that endures. And so the Father will give you whatever you ask of him in my name. This, then, is what I command you: love one another. Amen.
Jesus is alone with a small circle of close friends he's invited for a last supper. The crowds have gone and there's only 11 of them left. It should have been 12, but Judas has gone out in the night to betray Jesus. And Jesus speaks privately to his friends and shares with them the thoughts which are not for the crowds. The discourse recorded in chapters 13 to 17 of John's Gospel are words intended only for those whom Jesus calls close friends. They are words of great intimacy, reserved only for a chosen few. And if we are to believe them and accept them, then he promises that we become his friends as well. In the passage set by the lectionary today, we learn what it means to be an intimate friend of Jesus Christ. I thought I knew this chapter backwards, but I found that I'd never really grasped its meaning, and my only plea in mitigation is that I suspect the same was true for the disciples. Remember how the discourse begins with the picture of the vine and the branches, the intimate relationship of dependence and growth, the vine planted in the soil from which grow the branches, and on the branches grows the fruit, which in turn becomes the wine of the harvest. Jesus had a lot to say about wine, but here he describes a living organism interconnected from deepest root to highest branch, each component part dependent on the other in order to produce the harvest. And he uses the imagery of the vine to tell his closest friends that he has chosen them, appointed them in some translations, to go and bear fruit. But he warns them that this love, this unique relationship, comes at a cost. It might mean that to accept this love, you have to lay down your life. In the original Greek of the Gospel, the two words which seem quite different in English, appoint or chosen, and lay down, actually come from the same root. And this link between being chosen and laying down your life for this friend Jesus gets lost in the translation. It's one of the most familiar passages in the Gospels, but we don't actually appreciate what it really means. What we need to realize is that Jesus is saying quite clearly that theirs was not a relationship of Lord and servant or master and slave, which is the way we often present our relationship to God in Christianity, It is a relationship of equal sharing. It is a call to live a life in companionship with God, the God whom we know through the life of Jesus. It's a relationship, therefore, of sharing and loving, and not of command and duty. We often take these powerful words, "greater love hath no man than this," to suggest that we somehow got off scot-free because Jesus has suffered instead of us, that Jesus has somehow paid a price on our behalf, demanded by a vengeful Father. But it wasn't like that. The appointed disciples were not spared cruel deaths or torment. They shared them with the Lord they loved and who loved them. They shared life together as sons and daughters of the Father. "Greater love hath no man than this" has been quoted in church, carved on innumerable memorials, repeated every Remembrance Day, but we still have not grasped what Jesus was saying. He does not just choose his friends and invite them round for supper. He commits his life to them and their future. And he gives his life to us so that we might be able to give our lives to him and share in the life of God, not in terror and fear, but in equal love. Has anyone ever promised you that before? Well, we have models in our own human relationships of people who do that for us and people for whom we would do that in our return. And that's why the words "greater love hath no one than this" resonate so strongly with us. It is everlasting love. Which brings me back to the beginning of this chapter of John's Gospel. "I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener." To be chosen by Jesus is to share his life and his love for the world, and to be called to lay down our lives for a love that never gives up on us and our neighbour. We use the expression of laying down from wine as well, the final product of the vine. You buy a good vintage and you lay it down. You commit to it and keep it until such time as it's ready to bear its full fruit for you. Jesus has chosen us to his friends and laid us down to bear fruit in due season. It is time to uncork our discipleship and lay down our lives for his gospel. Amen.